Welcome to Fiberchats. Today I'm continuing my Humans of Westknits series and we're going to discuss clue number 3. If you are new to my channel, this year I decided to create a series of mini interviews with people just like you, people who participate in this year's Mystery Knit Along by Westknits called Twists and Turns. But you started like very recently, right?
Yeah, I actually just started at the end of July. We were at our lake house and we were there for a whole month. And the clubhouse offers different activities. And so one of them was knitting. And so I figured, well, I'm here for 4 weeks. It'll give me something to do when it gets too hot to be outside. And so I signed up and I actually thought that I was getting into amigurumi, like that was one of my goals. And then I quickly learned that was not happening. And so then I'm like, okay, well, I can pivot. I've always wanted to make like a Weasley sweater for my daughter. She wants to go to the UK to study abroad. And I'm like, well, how much fun would that be? And then I purchased some of the Harry Potter knitting books and I realized how far underwater I was. Like it was so over my head. I didn't realize like there was a whole language around it, that I didn't know there were different types or sizes of wool. Like I literally knew nothing. So I just, jumped in with both feet and here we are.
Well, what convinced you to try this Mystery Knit Along?
I was searching for a project. I had just gotten done with like a cowlet, which was my last practice project. And I was really trying to find a good tutorial that would help me do just like a basic sweater. Like I had the pattern for the Weasley sweater, but I really was not sure how to do anything related to the armholes or the sleeves. I wasn't sure if top down was better or bottom up. And then I had just was watching hours and hours of videos on YouTube. And I don't know if I came across Stephen, Martin, or you first, because I watched so many of them. And all I knew is I needed a really good tutorial. And so I don't know if if I was watching one of Steven's tutorials that was like, oh, okay, I can do that. I can literally do anything that I can watch and pause and slow down. And then I know that I was listening to one of Martin's blogs, and I think it was like on a previous MKAL where the two of you were talking about it. And I'm like, I don't know what this is, but it sounds a lot of fun and exciting. So when I got home, I started doing a little bit more research, and it was right at the beginning of September. So all the kits had already launched. And I totally just got swept up in the excitement. And I'm like, okay, just hold on to your hats because this is going to be wild.
So how is it?
It is wild. I went in knowing that I would know nothing and that it was I gave myself 1 year. I'm giving myself until the end of July. I figured that would be a great knitting anniversary present to myself, that like, this is what I've accomplished. Um, it's going okay. The first couple of repeats, as I'm like looking at my pattern here, the first couple of repeats were terrible. I had to rip out, I think, row 2 and 3. And thankfully I'm really glad that the Ravelry group is there. I was sending photos with like things circled, like here's error number 1 that I can see. Here's error number 2. Can someone help me? Because I literally know nothing. And so the people in the Ravelry group are really good. So I'm on a good roll now. I'm on, I think, repeat 7.5. I'm hoping to be done by Sunday.
You totally got it now. I mean, the worst is behind you. That's it.
It is. It really is.
The
I
most
really
difficult
learned
part already.
it's doing well. I think my problem is I don't love my colors.
Colors, actually, on the contrary, I think it's gonna be absolutely spectacular.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, so the contrast color I have is yellow, and I'm not a yellow person. I'm more of a, black and gray, very subdued. And now that I see everybody's like I love Martin's. Like I love the pumpkin spice look or the autumn look. And because I'm so new, I'm very much like, I didn't know I could do that. Like I didn't I
Well,
didn't
let me
know.
tell you, I didn't know I could do that either. Like I'm looking at some of the things that people do, and I'm like, why didn't I think of that?
Right, for sure, for sure.
I mean, that's my issue with the mystery part of the knit along, because I feel like if I knew what the shawl looks like, I could be more improvisational with my choices of colors, with where I insert some pieces of my creativity. But because I have no idea where I'm going, and because this is my first mystery knit along, just as yours, I'm sort of like, well, I'm gonna trust in Steven and just follow the instructions. So yesterday was actually the first time, and spoiler alert, everybody, I step away a little bit from the main thing, right? So I did, everything was like according to plan, and then I came
Yeah.
to this part and I was like, maybe I'll insert a new color. And I'm not still
Mhm.
like 100% sold on it, but I don't know. I feel
I
like,
love it because it's just a slightly different color, right? In the
right,
same color
right,
family.
right.
Yeah, no, it looks great. I think because I'm so far, I'm not even going to say that I'm behind because I'm such a slower knitter and I'm new to all of this. I actually love being able to see what everybody else is doing, so that I can like, okay, I'm going to make adjustments. So when everybody was saying it looked like bat wings, because I have all these funfetti speckles in here, I mean, it really does look like rainbow. I'm going to try to find really small skeins of the colors that are accented, like a purple and a green and a pink. And then I think I'm going to do those I-cord loops in the cables and all the different colors.
Oh, that sounds good.
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, are you enjoying the process so far? Like, what's your favorite part about the MKAL so far?
I think there's a number of things that, like, probably three big things that are my favorite. I love learning something new. His videos are fantastic, so I feel like as long as I can watch a video, I'm great. The Ravelry group has been phenomenal as far as help and just feeling like there's a community. Because there's nobody in my area that knits. Like I literally have no one there's one person at work, but I don't see her very often. That if I get stuck, I'm really on my own, which is frightening. And I like the opportunity to have something that I have created when it's over. So I'm just, I'm all in.
Well, do you have any prediction about what next clue holds for us?
I'm a little I'm curious to see if, because those new, like whatever those really long cabled strips are, he keeps saying that they're going to be flat, but then we have all those live edges on the side. I'm almost wondering if there's going to be braided I cords in between there, like a wedged braided I cord. Because it's like if there's really only 1 week left with clues, how are you going to cover that much space
Well, do you
with
think
that?
he's gonna surprise us this week still? Like, I have a feeling
You
we might see like sub clue number 3 somehow, like Monday or something. Like, what's your feeling about it?
I don't know. I really don't know. I really I'm there for the videos. I'm there for the people. I'm there to learn something new. Um, but it's fun. It's definitely exciting. There at those little loops, like those braided loops at the top, I was wondering almost if, and I don't know what it's called. I don't know if it's a bubble or a bobble or when you make all those things that stick out. I almost wondered, is he going to have us make those and like loop those over like a small button
Right.
and then like stitch them
Actually,
together?
nobody thought about that yet, like on my channel.
Oh, really? That was my first thought because I'm like, how else do you get something else in there that is still secure without braiding something all the way through on a whole separate piece? Because like I said, there's only a week left. So if he does it, but even if he does like one extra week or two clues in the last week, that's a lot of knitting to cover.
Well, do you want to hear my prediction about you?
Sure.
I think you're gonna be done way before July of next year.
Oh, I think, you know what? I think so. We pulled it back to Easter, and I say we because I've been talking to my daughter about it. I'm should be done by Easter, but like as this is going, if it takes me 4 weeks per clue, which I don't think it's going to, my like secret goal is by Christmas. I could be
I
finished.
mean, I think it's doable because you are through the most difficult part of the show so far. Like
Okay, that's
you
good to
did
know.
you are doing like what tripped a lot of people. Like this is really the most difficult part. I mean, it's also like tedious because there is a lot of cast on, cast off. And I think by
Yeah.
the end of the show, you're going to be a proficient knitter and you can totally do any sweater.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I am definitely learning a new language. Like everything is new. The short rows, never done that before. I haven't even gotten there. Cables, no idea. Like it's literally all new to me.
You're going to be totally pro.
Well, thanks.
You know what's interesting? How, like, okay, he's so famous here in the US, right? For like we all know and love him, but to see people from like such different parts of the world being so into it's like he managed to spread his popularity worldwide, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Really amazing. So how are you loving the mystery knit along?
You know what? I really enjoy participating in the mystery knit alongs for a lot of different reasons. I love, his shawls are so inventive. And if you look at, the past, I guess what is it, 13 mystery shawls now.
Right.
Each one is very unique, very different, has lots of different techniques. So, it is a learning experience. And his videos are such great teaching tools. And
Right.
he's such a great and dynamic teacher. And this is coming from someone who does that for a living. So I really appreciate how engaging he is and how specific he is about, if this doesn't work, try this. He shows, both continental and English style knitting. He just tries to cover all the bases so
Right.
that everyone can really feel comfortable knitting his designs. And I think that's great. He tries to make these shawls, which look daunting if you just look at the image of them, making them so accessible to every level of knitter.
Yeah. And actually, I just interviewed another lady who learned how to knit in July, and she's knitting this mystery knit along and like succeeding beautifully, So it's like
yeah.
Made
Yeah, I mean, I waited till, for almost 13 years before I attempted even a simple Stephen West pattern. So
well, I've been watching your Vlogtober. So if you guys don't know Scott, he's been on my channel before and he has his own YouTube channel called GreatScott Knitting, right?
Yep, GreatScott Knitting.
So you've been covering it, and one of the episodes of Vlogtober that you did was about going at your own pace and how there's like absolutely nothing wrong with it and the pressure we put on ourselves. You've done mystery knit alongs before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you find
last year was the first year I did it?
Well, do you find this year to be different from last year? Because I'm getting a feeling that this specific one was a bit top heavy for a lot of people. Like the first clue was so like labor intensive that a lot of people felt like they were falling behind. Like, did you get the same sense?
Yeah, so when I saw that first clue drop, I was like, oh my God, he's like out of the box going for broke. I mean, he's just gangbusters out of the gate. And so I watched that entire video before I cast on, and I was like, at the end, I was like, I have to do this. This just looks too cool not to go through it. So I think that was, having such a big chunk right out of the gate. Yeah, it was going to put some people behind. And I think I think that was not intentional, but knew that would be something that was going to occur. Just, it was kind of a slog to go through all that casting on, binding off, because it was not just a quick and easy, let's get started easy into this shawl. No, this one is, you're jumping in head first into the deep end at the beginning.
What did you think about the third clue?
So the third clue is one where everybody's going to catch up.
Well,
Because
so, okay, like, do you think so? Or do you think we are up for a surprise and like Monday or Tuesday, he's going to be like, and this is the second part of clue 3?
so that is a very strong possibility. He has done that in the past. I kind of hope he does, because I'm done with clue 3 already.
Can you show
the majority of clue 3, the key aspect of clue 3 I'm done with. I'm not done with the fiddly part.
Can you show me yours?
Sure. So of course, now our colors are very similar.
Yeah, I know.
Not intentionally.
Your yellow is just brighter, but like, yeah.
But yeah, I have this bright yellow,
right.
This nice, lovely gray, which really shows off those cables nicely.
Yeah.
And of course, you can kind of see a little bit of what the clue 3 is bringing
parts.
into you.
The fiddly parts.
The fiddly part, man.
Well,
like, how many miles of
I have a little surprise for you. So you know how you're saying ours is very similar? So this is mine, but look at the fiddly parts. I went your color.
Oh yeah, you brought some brighter pop into that.
Right.
That's kind of a cool idea. I'm considering, well, it's a little late now, but I could easily go back because I haven't done much of it. But I'm considering maybe bringing in the main color into that too.
Yeah, like I was thinking of going bright blue maybe, or like I was playing with a lot of colors. I also had one skein of like rainbow colors, and I was considering to use that. But then I was like, I don't know like how it's gonna look. I don't know. It was like I chickened out a little bit and I went more conservative, but I brought a little bit of your pop color into my.
Yeah. So there's those strips of.
I have a question about that. So I was chatting with Professor Purl, Christopher McGovern, who is also have been a guest of my channel. And he was like, there's absolutely no way I'm doing those little cables. It's too fiddly. And I'm just doing like, similar stitch that's going to look the same. And his looks brilliant as well. Like he didn't do the cables, but they still look like those lines look.
Yeah, you still get the effect.
Right. Did you enjoy those cables?
Actually I did, because I tried it first with the cable needle and I was like, this is going to take forever if I do this. Right. So I used his suggestion of and I've done that before when doing some cables where you have a good sticky yarn in it, and that doesn't kind of come undone as you drop 2 or 3 stitches, knit, and then pick those ones back up. So I just did it that way, and it went really, really quickly for me.
You know what? I really enjoyed that for some reason. I haven't done this cabling without the needle before. And I loved how he showed it. I loved that technique. I actually definitely gonna use something I knew I learned, and I'm definitely gonna use it. But to me, it felt like, when you like learning calligraphy almost, like how you need to connect every letter like without breaking the stride. Like to me, it felt like almost the same, how to like make it with the movement that doesn't break and stop.
Yeah. So where you're not stopping, doing this, trying to get started. I
actually like really enjoyed it. It was somehow like very meditative.
Because you have to focus, because if you don't, the stitch will drop.
Right.
You'll have to wind up like picking it back up and doing the twist or whatever.
And that pattern is like easy enough to remember, that at some point after like a couple repeats, you just know what's coming. So you're not constantly looking at the pattern and like, just glancing there. So I enjoyed that as well.
I would say for the most part, a lot of this pattern has been that, once you've been through one repeat of it, and there's a lot of repeat on this pattern so far. But once you've done one repeat, it's in my brain. Then I can just then go and make sure that I don't do too many.
Right. Well, what do you have any predictions as to where we're going with this?
Not a freaking clue.
Me neither.
I knew this was gonna. I kind of had an inkling at the beginning that it was going to be a non-traditionally shaped shawl, and so far it's very non-traditionally shaped. I don't know what these are doing yet, because right now my brain is saying it's going to be a 20-foot shawl, and and the next clue is going to have tons of knitting in it.
Well, I mean,
Or
it's either that, or
it's like, is it going to come up? You know, is it? I have no idea where he's going with these.
any predictions as to how we are anchoring those loopity loops?
Not yet, because he hasn't. It's like, you know, I was thinking, okay, we're either going to go off the bottom, you know, for clue 3, I thought we're going to go off the bottom or off the sides where we still have those live stitches. Nope, didn't do either of those things. So it's like, I don't know where we're going, but I am open for the ride. I know this is going to be interesting because, and I've kind of looked back at a lot of his designs trying to figure out, has he done anything like this that I kind of can maybe figure out what's going to happen next? I've not seen anything like this yet.
Right. Well, he keeps on saying that this is the first time I'm doing it. This is the first time I'm doing it. So I wonder, like, how the construction of this shawl came to him. Like, if it was sort of like design as I goes, you know, thing.
Yeah, he's like, choose your own adventure and then try and get them all to work together. You know, at first I was a little scared of my color pop because I thought, wow, this is just really bright in this sort of muted tones. But as he's added more of that color to it, I'm more comfortable.
Well, did you use
the colors?
Did you use your own yarn that you dyed?
Yep, I dyed my own yarn, and this is a merino cashmere nylon base that I did, and my first time dyeing on MCN. So I really love, I'm really loving this base. So I'm going to try and get some more of it and get some of it into my shop some point next year.
Was it hard for you to choose just those 3 colors?
So my color, yeah, it took me a while to decide on colors, because last year I went sort of out of my wheelhouse with shawlography, and because it had 5 different colors, you know, there's a busyness to it, but I did like how my colors were somewhat muted, fall type colors, and I think they work really nicely together. And I was like, okay, that was out of my wheelhouse. I'm going to go back into my wheelhouse, which is blues, greens, grays, but I wanted that color pop. And at first I was thinking, you know, I wanted the dark blue, and I wanted some kind of a gray, but I wanted it to be a bluish gray. And I did dye up a blue, sort of a more bluish light colored tone, and I didn't like it as much. And I knew I wanted some kind of a yellow, because I knew that would pop really well with the blue.
Right.
So, but it took me about 3 weeks to figure out what colors I wanted to do. And then I had to play with it a while.
Well, you have an experience of collaborating with other YouTube channels. Like, you did your own channel and then you joined Knittergy, where there is whole 4 of you. What are you thinking about my collaboration with Martin?
I love it. When I saw that you 2 were doing this, I was like, oh, this is a perfect pairing of people, a perfect pairing of energies, because I think you play really well with each other, in terms of, you have this little, you know, sort of side contest going on. Who's gonna win? Who's, you know, how are we? Who's gonna get ahead during you know, during this last week? And it turns out neither one of you. So that
neither of us managed to finish it on time.
Yeah, exactly. So it has created some fun. I think you guys have a great energy with each other. His channel is so much fun to watch as well. So yeah, this was a match made in heaven. I'm so glad you guys are doing this. It helps. It has contributed, I think, to the experience for a lot of people, because we do get to, in a way, connect with the people you're connecting with, because you have your these humans of Westknits, where we're getting to meet a lot of people. We're getting to see what they love about it and like, oh yeah, I love that too. Or what they're struggling with. And it's like, man, yeah, that struggles with me too. And then on with Martin, we get to see a very, very deep dive into a very personal experience, about what his challenges are. And he has no problem sharing, man, I had to completely undo one wing because the tension was wrong.
Right. All the disaster stories.
Yeah. So there's this. Okay, so here's one of the things I really do love about these, especially these mystery knit-alongs, because nobody knows what's going to happen, but we're all not knowing at the same time. And, there's probably tens, I'm going to say tens of thousands. I may be stretching it, but I think there's tens of thousands of people knitting this at the same time as I am and experiencing it with me. And so there is this innate feeling of connectedness with a wider group of people that you don't know.
Right.
And I think that there's an energy that is just created by simply knowing you're doing the same thing as somebody else. You're excited along with thousands of other people at the same time. I'm casting this on probably at the same moment as, hundreds of other people are casting it on at the same time. I think that creates this collective energy that creates a moment that is unique from any other moment that you experience.
So how are you enjoying it?
I'm really enjoying it. I have to say the first bit was a bit of hard work. Luckily for me, I knew what cable cast on was, although I've never called it that. It was just cast on. So that wasn't new to me. So I got reasonable, as fast as you can get when you're casting on and casting off at it towards the end. But I was quite pleased when it was over. And I think I would have found it harder to carry on if I hadn't cheated and looked at the end and thought, that's what we're doing. Okay, well, that's fine. I'll carry on then. Not that I wouldn't have, but it enthused me again.
Have you ever seen that braid before?
No.
Me neither.
No, that's why I like doing what he does, because he comes up with ideas that it would never occur to me to do.
Right. What about second clue?
Oh, second clue was easy peasy. Yeah, I've done lots of cabling and stuff like that, so I found that really easy. I think I had that finished by the Monday night, something like that. Mind you, I'm retired, so I can do a lot of uninterrupted knitting, but I mean, there was a lot of knitting, but it was easy.
Well, Martin had all those trouble with purling.
Yeah.
How was your tension? Did you discover anything new about your tension?
No, see, I'm old enough that I grew up knitting in the flat, so purling I had to learn how to do properly. And well, when I say properly, I had to learn how to do a lot of purling, so purling never worries me. So it didn't even occur to me that it could be an issue. And when I watched his video, I went, oh my God. So I went back and checked mine and it was fine.
Did you have any places where you stumbled on anything, or is it all like easy for you, just the matter of time?
No, I haven't really stumbled on anything. I did check the videos when he was getting us to pick up, so that I could know exactly where to pick up the stitches, so I had them all right. But once I, for instance, the long thin straps that God knows what's going to happen with them that we've knitted, once I learned the pattern, I didn't even look at it anymore. I could just do it without looking.
Well,
so that made.
What brought you most joy so far? Like, what was your favorite part so far?
Actually, when he was showing us, I thought, oh, I don't know if I'm going to bother with that, the little snail things. And I thought, oh, I'll do one and give it a go. And when I did it, I thought, oh, that looks awesome. So then I happily went ahead and did the rest. So, yeah, I guess that. And I really enjoyed doing the two bat wings, as people are calling them.
Well, I mean, when you look at it now, right, like where you got so far, do you see yourself wearing it? Is it something like you are kind of stuck?
Although that's not really why I do it. I mean, if I did last year's, that was my first one, and it was more for the challenge to be challenged to do different techniques. Like the actual knitting part of it was easy, just the ideas he comes up with. And so just to expose myself to different ideas and different possibilities with knitting. And as it happens, I have used it. Not a huge call for shawls here in Australia, or even in the southern part where I lived. You know, there's not that many days where you need to have your neck all wrapped up, because our coldest temperature is probably in the dead of winter, maybe -2 or 3 for a few hours first thing in the morning. So it's not like I have a huge need for a shawl, but that's why I'm doing it, just for the experience, I guess, and to be part of a whole lot of people all doing it at once.
Right. When you look at that shawl, right, or any of the Stevens mystery knit along for this matter, do you get the sense that it almost looks like a sampler, that there is no connection between the parts, or do you see it as like one piece of art?
Last year's, I thought it was coordinated, only because we just kept adding on and on and on and on to the original part. So that was, you were doing different stitches and things. So I guess you could think of it as a sampler. I don't know. But this one, I can see where people are coming from with that. And looking at it, I think it very much depends on colours people have chosen as to whether it looks coordinated or not. And I'm guessing that, knowing the way he works, by the time we get and do whatever we're doing next, it'll probably come together. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's fine.
Are you happy with your colours?
Yes, I am. They're not colours I would normally go for. I tried really hard to go outside my normal colours, and that was the only part that disappointed me with the first clue. I looked at it and thought, oh, God, why did I go with these colours? I don't really like it. But as soon as I added the wings to it, it came to life, and then I really liked it.
Can I see it?
Sure. So there's the first bit. I can't see me. And there's the...
I love that. I love that pink, yeah.
Yeah.
Really
so the grey, I mean, I don't mind grey, but it's not a colour. It wouldn't be my first colour choice to go with. I like lots of colour, and as you can see by what I'm wearing. And so when I went with the grey and the collar is, to me, is gold, but it's called Tyranny for whatever reason. And it's a local dyer here in Australia. And once I put the little grey cables on and did all that, the centre part then to me came to life. It looked a bit dull and not my normal vibrant choice. And then putting the little embellishment in the cable, I saw a few people who'd changed the cables, and I thought, I wonder if they're going to live to regret that, because they can't do that now.
Well, what was your thought process in choosing those colors?
Look, I like colours, but I would be the first to admit I'm not a colour expert or choose. So I tend to stick with similar colours, to bright colours, but I tend to have my favourites, as do you, with your blue and so forth. Mm. So when he originally put out the palettes, I looked at them and I thought, I think I'll give that a go. So then I looked in Australia for someone who was dyeing similar colours. So it's actually one of his palettes in his kits, but a dyer here in Australia, because to send it here from Amsterdam, because he FedExes everything, it was going to be outrageously expensive. Right. So I decided that I would just try and find a similar palette, because I would say I don't have the confidence to do something like this without seeing it from someone else first, if you know what I mean, and saying, oh yeah, that looks nice, I'd quite like that. Yeah.
But like what amazes me about Stephen, that his popularity is spread so wide.
Yes.
I'm interviewing people from all over the globe and like everybody loves him. What attracted you to Stephen and how did you even learn about him?
Well, I learned about him through watching Amy Pelko, and she did the slip extravaganza. I think that was the first one I saw. And then the following year, I happened across Martin, who was going to do it, and he just makes me laugh. He actually stresses me out because I'm a monogamous knitter. And when he's talking about
I told him the same thing. I told him the same exact thing. I was like, just the idea of you having all those work in progress stresses me out for you on your behalf.
I wouldn't know what to knit because I'd be sitting there going, because I like to knit something and finish it. And anyway, so I started watching him, and that got me in, and I thought, oh, well, I don't really need a shawl, but I'll give it a go. And then, which is what had always stopped me. Like, I've seen lots of shawls I'd love to knit and think, well, what would I do with it at the end? And then I just thought, oh, to hell with it, I'll give it a go anyway. And I sort of heard about him. I think once you get onto Ravelry and places like that and you start watching various podcasts, it's pretty hard not to come across his name. What attracts me to him is his use of colour, because I love the way he just doesn't care. He just puts the colours out there, and I really like that. So I'm always up for him with his pops of colour and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, you've been knitting for a while. Like, do you feel like he changed you as a knitter?
I think he's made me more confident to use bright colours, whereas before I would have, even though I liked them, I would have been a bit more, or should I put that with that? And then I sort of got to the point where I don't care if I like it, I'll do it.
Well, let's talk about the speed, right? So at the beginning, like Martin and I were joking about the competition. We did the whole like Team USA versus Team UK.
Yeah.
But now it's got to the point when it's like, I mean, we're all busy with our lives. We have some things and,
yeah,
you know, work and whatever. Do you feel like you can embrace your own pace, or do you feel like this communal excitement pushes you to knit more and faster?
So it's not because I'm trying to keep up with people. I have a lot of time to knit because I'm a retired person and I live alone, so I can knit for however long it pleases me. That's one reason why I can keep up. The other reason is because I'm a monogamous knitter, I'm always thinking about the next thing I want to knit. So I want to get the thing that I'm doing finished. I don't know if that's how you work, but I sort of go, I want to get this finished because I want to get on to the new thing. So it's not pressure to keep up with other people. It's pressure to keep up with myself because I want to cast on the next thing.
Do you already have that next thing planned?
Yeah.
Want to share what it is?
It's now, I haven't actually bought the pattern yet, but I've got the yarn. I think it's a Corbin sweater. I saw it from Fruity Knitting. Andrea was wearing it and I loved it because I like things that challenge me, and I've never knitted anything like that, so I want to have a go at that.
It's funny because like that's what was my fear of mystery knit along, that I thought I have so much extra time and I already want to knit the next thing, and meanwhile I have to sit and wait. So, are you usually a fan of mystery? Like I can do like mystery books, mystery movies, mystery surprise birthday parties, that kind of thing.
This is the first, these two, the last year's and these ones are the first ones that I've done. I don't mind the fact that it's a mystery. I've seen people getting very distressed because they don't know where it's going. I just go with the flow with it, because I think that's all part of it being a mystery, is that it's you don't know where it's going to go, and that's part of the fun. But I think if it wasn't doing it for Stephen West, for this, it's not something I'd rush out and do lots of different mystery knit alongs. I just do this one because it's a bit of fun, really.
Do you feel like you would be missing out if you didn't participate in this mystery knit along?
Really, because I did it last year with the intention of only ever doing it once because of the aforementioned no need for shawls here, really. And I was quite happy with that, been there, done that, tick, tick. And then this year I thought, no, I won't. But then a friend of mine wanted to do it. So I thought, oh, all right, let's go. We'll do it again. But I probably won't again because, not because I don't love it, but because, again, just how many shawls do I need, really? it's a matter.
Well, I'm thinking the same thing about Humans of Westknits because I'm doing it now and I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying meeting everybody. But then somebody said, I hope you'll come back next year with this thing. And I'm asking myself, well, will I?
Yeah, because if you've had to put a lot of work into that.
Well, I'm also like, it was a new concept, like nobody have done it. So I enjoyed doing it. Now it's been done, right? So I'm asking myself if I want to continue, but I want to make a deal with you. If I come back and if you're knitting the next year, Mr. Knit Along, you're going to be a guest on my channel again.
Okay.
I thought it would be helpful because I'm a slower knitter and I messed around a lot with the I-cords and I've made a lot of mistakes.
I mean, did you enjoy the first clue at all?
I've enjoyed all of it. I don't mind making mistakes. I think that it frustrates me at the time, but I learned so much. I really like it. So for this part here, I actually did one of my triangles upside down. So it was fat up here and went down.
Did that too. I did that too.
You did that too?
I had to like I don't even know. It was on the second side and I don't know what happened there.
Yes, it was right at the end when I was really tired and I thought, oh no. So I had to take the whole thing out and redo it. So I had mistakes there. I find it a little fiddly, like I'm not fast casting on or casting off. So it really takes me a long time. And this year I'm on sabbatical, so I have a lot more flexibility in time. So I could spend time on it. If I had to work all day, I would be very far behind. Even further behind. I'm not behind. I'm in week 3, clue. But I have missed every day.
Right.
For this cat, and it's fine.
Well, you mentioned the tools you got for it. Like what kind of tools?
Yeah. So what I did is, so for the I-cord part, so I do want to do the embellishments, and I'm slow, right? And so the one here was done using knitting, but I thought, what about an I-cord tool so I could do it faster? That's the plumper one on this one right here. So I bought 2 I-cord tools to see what might work. So first I bought the Prim little I-cord maker that Arnie and KALs were advertising a year or so ago. And then on Ravelry, a person said, but there's 4 pins and there's only 3 stitches. So I bought this Clover 3-pin tool. Don't buy this one. This one's it's not made for our width of yarn. It's for a fatter yarn.
So you use the one that Arnie and Carlos suggested.
That one is beautiful. I love it. But it makes for a plumper I-cord.
Right. So, because like doesn't really matter for this specific spot.
I don't think it matters. So I think I'm going to use that. But I wanted to see how it looked different because I knew mine didn't look like Steven's.
Right.
So, and he had a lot more space here. And so I haven't decided what I'm going to do. I think I will go with the plumper just out of time.
Right.
I mean, they both look good. I think it's personal preference.
Right. I mean, I must tell you, I never even heard about this tool, so I'm learning something.
Oh, yeah. Comfort Twist I-cord maker. And it works really, the directions are inside, which took me a while to find them. And you set it up, and once you go, you just crank and you get an I-cord. So I did the one that I knit took me 45 minutes, and the other one took 5 after I get the hang of it. It takes a little bit to figure out how to use the tool. It
Right.
comes with a weight for the yarn, and my yarn is Life in the Long Grass, and it's just not heavy. So
Well, tell me about your impression of this MKAL in comparison to the one you did last year.
So I will say both of them intimidate me all the time, but I like that. And I heard you and Martin yesterday, and you were talking about how it forces us to learn things we wouldn't do, and I'm 100% with you on that.
Right.
And so this was the one I did last year. I can remember thinking, if I don't like it, it will be art. I mean, everything he does is a piece of art, and I will hang it up in my house, and I wear it all the time, and I love it. So when I have the same feelings here of where is this going, I think I'm just trusting Stephen, what Martin says, which is, I found him last year. It got me through the whole thing. I think I never would have made it through the first KAL, because he does things I've never heard of, and they look different, right? Like the yarn shrimp from last year, these little hooky things. What are these? These are bizarre. And then I love cables. I mean, the cables I love, but what are these strips for?
Right. Like I have zero idea of where the was this.
What is this? And so I'm just trusting, and I've yet to see a design that of his that is not art. So
well, one of the things we discussed yesterday in the live when I did it on Martin's channel on Knit 365 blog, and if you guys haven't watched it, it's recorded there. One of the things we discussed is like, would you choose different yarn if you knew what you were knitting? What was your feeling about that?
Right. So I selected colors I don't normally wear. And I realized as soon as I started knitting, they're gender neutral, and they're fairly muted.
Right.
So yeah, I would have picked louder. I would have got louder yarn.
Right.
Whereas last year, this was as loud as I was willing to go. I think I have more confidence in his designs now, maybe to go louder than I would have a year ago. But I wanted to get out of the purple. I do purples and blues. For me, adventure is a green. So I wanted something a little different. And I think it's going to be gorgeous, and it will be the statement piece when I wear it. However, when I've seen all of everybody's that have the really loud pop, I've really loved those. I love mine, but I think it would be at a better, I would love it even more if it was louder. Does that make sense?
Right. What was your feeling about those little tiny cables in third clue? All the zigzags, this one by one.
Oh, so I like the idea of figuring out how to do it without a cable needle.
Okay.
So I find it really meditative and relaxing, and it's easy to memorize. I found this part to be probably the easiest of the whole thing.
Right.
Because I sometimes lose count of the 3 rows where you just do the back. But no, I hope we do something with it, because if we get at the end and it's hidden, I'll be sad. I like the way the wave looks. I don't know. I like it. I think it's pretty. I think it's, I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed practicing. It goes really fast.
Well, you've been knitting for a while.
Yeah.
Do you feel like because of this mystery knit-alongs, do you feel like you became a better knitter?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not only did I become better, I became faster. So I know a lot of folks feel like they have to keep up, and I'm at that point in my life that I want to, but I'm not going to be miserable to do it. So I stayed up one night really late in week 1, and I thought, I can't do this, because even I'm on sabbatical, I still have to work, and I'm like, I'm just not doing it. So I don't stay up, because then I make mistakes. But what I learned so much from him about what the yarn looks like, how to fix it. And just he has different techniques. He's one of the best teachers I've ever seen. His videos where I could not do this without his videos. I mean, I think it's his videos where he breaks it down into a way that's easy to understand and for me to do and replicate.
Right.
And so there's no way I have tried so much more because of him in the past year, because of last year's experience. It gives me a lot more confidence.
Well, what's knitting for you? What does it mean in your life? Is that a place to escape from the rest of the life? Is it?
Yeah, it's interesting because it used to, when I started knitting as an adult in 2008, I liked the feel of the yarn in my hand and it made me happy. And I liked giving things that I made to people I loved. And then during the pandemic, it just started giving me joy in a way that I just love everything about it. I am redoing a room. So to make it not a yarn room, it's also going to be a library, but because I'm in a little office corner of my living room right here, and it's all yarn stuff along with my work, and it's just blown up. And the joy that knitting has given me in learning how to do something well, and the joy that people get when I give them things. But I also think it's important to keep learning new things and pushing myself. So I also went to Rhinebeck and I took classes because I just started taking classes in the past year. I never took a class. My mother taught me I was done, I would read a book. And so, and it really does a thing for my curiosity. And there's so much I have to learn. And I don't want to be, in a lot of the areas in my life, I have to be an overachiever, and I don't in knitting. To people who don't knit, I look like I'm an overachiever. But to people who knit, I'm a knitter. I'm either an advanced beginner or a beginner intermediate. I'm right in that little, I can fix problems, but my ends look horrid. But I'm getting better every time I get better. And I like that idea.
Right.
So,
well, when you were at Rhinebeck, basically every place you look, you'd see somebody wearing one of Stephen's shawls or
yes,
sweaters or something.
His sweaters. Yep. Yes.
Did that bother you that like everybody wears the same thing? Or
no,
do you want to be part of that?
All right, I'm going to use an analogy that you may cut out. I've never been, but it seemed, my experience there seemed like what I've read about a nude beach being. So they say one of the things, if you have body dysmorphia and you go to a nude beach, you see nobody's perfect. So what I saw in those sweaters was beauty in the same in a nude beach, the beauty in being human, the beauty in being hand knit. No two of them were the same. So even if I saw my shawl, it was not my shawl. It was not like buying it off the rack. And there was a connection there and a beauty in each one of us making it our own. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I don't know if that analogy works for you, but for me, it was it took some of the pressure off me about having to be absolutely flawlessly perfect, because we don't want them all to look exactly alike. We want them all to be an expression of who we are within the constraints of the pattern and what that might look like with the choice of colors or the size. Like I'm a really tight knitter, so mine is smaller than almost everybody else. You and Martin measured yours yesterday. They're not the same size, right? And to me, that's what makes this have so much value to me, is that it's still mine.
Right. Well, what enticed you to join Martin and me?
So you all talk about how great it was and you meet each other. I'm pretty much, I'm a one-on-one kind of person, not a group person. But you're talking about, the pressure you've been putting on to keep up, and also about talking about this clue. And I've been watching like what people have written on Ravelry, and I think I really wanted to help you all support people who aren't great knitters. I mean, you're amazingly fast. You're all done. You're amazingly fast. And so is Martin compared to me. Now, I'm sure there are people faster than you two. And I'm sure there are people slower than me, but kind of just encouraging that getting the joy out of all of this. And if you take the shortcut and get the little prim, it's okay.
Right.
Like do you know what I mean? Like just the joy that I get from watching podcasts, and I never want to be a podcaster. I have so much admiration for all you do. And I appreciate it. And it's given me a lifeline. But I thought the little bit I could do is say, if you're out there and you're thinking, you know, don't get discouraged. No one should get discouraged. I think this whole thing is about growing and improving our knitting and community. And I value that. And I felt like this was a little bit I could give back without any kind of commitment. And then you may not even use it. So that would be fine too.
Well, when did you watch the previous Humans of Westknits?
I have watched them.
Mostly. What do you think?
I think they're great. I haven't watched all of them. I think they're great, and they've helped me because I think kind of what I'm trying to contribute of. You've had people that are amazing, like experts, and then you've had people like me that are just another bozo on the bus, right? Like I'm just another knitter out here living my life, my great life as a knitter. And the value to all of us, this community is made up of all of us, from people like me that like to lurk and watch podcasts. I mean, I hardly ever post on Ravelry. I'm trying to get better at that. But I work a lot, so I don't want a lot of interaction, to people like you and Martin who are willing to come in here and offer this kind of support to all of us. I mean, I can't imagine the amount of time it's taken the two of you to do this. And you both have full-time jobs. You both are in relationships. And I can barely keep up with the knitting on sabbatical. So in a way it was, you were saying you needed people, and I kind of wanted to make sure I show my thanks a little bit to you two, because it's just been really wonderful to have you here doing this.
Tell me about your progress.
So my progress was back and forth. I had to do some and then take some out. I got it started and did some mistakes that were not going to look good in the finished product. They weren't recoverable, I guess is the way to put that. But I've been really focusing on it and trying to keep track of what I'm doing and not be distracted. So that's been helpful. I had some health issues in the beginning where my mind couldn't focus on it, so I had to just not do it. But I did attend, the festivities for Woolen Folk and Rhinebeck and tried to do some then, but that's not really possible. So
I didn't even bother. Like I just knew there's going to be no knitting there, because it's like a kid in a candy store. You can't concentrate on math problem.
Exactly. So
well, yeah. I loved running into you, and I loved the shawl that's behind you that you were wearing.
Yes.
Rhinebeck.
So that is my slip extravaganza from the MKAL 2020. It was my first delve into Stephen West projects. It has a design element we won't talk about that we just ignore, but it's still, I progressed forward. It took me a long time to complete it because I was a 10-month-old knitter when I decided to take that project on, and my local yarn store, Maker and Stitch here in Edwards, they were the lifeline. I would not have been able to do it without them. At some point they came to me and said, I think you need to put it away. I think you need to rest and have it, just come back to it later when you're more experienced. And I knew that if I put it away, I might not go back to it. So I persevered. They just didn't want me to be put off knitting altogether because of all the different new exciting techniques.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, when you talk about, like, I had this conversation yesterday with somebody, and she said, like, I keep forgetting how tedious it is to put together like bunch of granny squares for king size blanket, right? And I said, well, we all have this tendency of forgetting traumatic experience. That's why having multiple children, right? Like things like that.
Yes.
Do you feel like it's the same with Mystery Knit Along, that like by the end of the Mystery Knit Along, you're like, oh my God, I'm never doing it again. And then the next year rolls around and you're like, here we go again.
I know. I didn't take on 2021 Mystery Knit Along because I was a little bit traumatized from finishing the 2020 just before that started. And I think that it is great that we do it, we experience it, and then we forget about it, and then we pick something else up, and then we come back to it, and then we have this cast on, cast off. But it's been really exciting to be able to persevere, and the excitement around what you and Martin have created has been so helpful to keep me going, because even though even Martin and you have had some things that have come up that have been mistakes and things that you didn't expect and had to redo or change, it makes me feel okay to keep moving forward. I'm a little bit anxious about the second clue, the third clue, things like that.
So much easier. You got through the most difficult part. The first clue is the most difficult. The rest is like you'll fly through it. There is nothing to it.
That's wonderful to hear. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm about halfway through, I think, of the clue one. I have 7 of I'm starting my 7th contrast color row. So I'm on the downhill slope.
Well, when the new clue comes out, do you
Yes.
work it?
So with clue 2, I downloaded it and accidentally saw the picture of the clue before, and so then I just tried not to look at it again. And then this week, even though now clue 3 has been out, I haven't peeked at all. And every time you guys maybe show a little spoiler, I just turn my phone over so I don't see it. And I listen to what you're saying about it. So that's good. I want to look, but I don't want to look, So for sure, I've seen clue 2, and I think that's pretty exciting and fun. And the whole idea of dragon wings, I don't know, that's kind of the description that's been said, but it's so fun to have that mystery, but it's a little bit trepidation about, oh my goodness, am I going to be able to do that? What's going to come next?
You totally got it. Like, piece of cake. It's just a matter of time. You just be kind to yourself, embrace your pace, and you'll get there.
I think that's been the overall overarching theme of even the Humans of Westknits is embrace your pace. So.
Right. And it's funny because, like, as much as we had this little competition, Martin and I, at the beginning, at this point, I was like, the last time I talked to him, I was like, Martin, I'm not finishing without you. So, like, I'll be sitting there by the sidelines waiting for you to catch up for as long as it takes, and we'll finish it together. So, I feel like it's more about the process of this Mystery Knit Along than the final project for me. So
yeah, I think it is a process, and I think it's the community effort in it and the camaraderie. And I want to still do other things in addition to this, but it's so complicated sometimes and takes up so much time. It's hard to do other things. I was in the process of doing a knit along at my local store. They were doing hat hullabaloo for October, and I was like, yes, I'm going to make 2 hats and I'm going to get this done. And I've made 1 hat. I'm in the process of doing the second one. I'm not sure the second one's going to get done. But,
eventually. Well, do you think, I ask a lot of people if Stephen changed them as knitters, but do you think Martin changed you as a knitter?
I think, he has been kind of my little lifeline through, ups and downs in my health and ups and downs in my knitting, and just the last, 2 years since I've been watching him. He's been entertaining because he's so real, and he's just does what he does, and he polishes his halo and he uses dash, and so I think that's been really fun to watch him. And when I was working on the Slip Extravaganza, and that's when I found his videos, I was encouraged to keep going forward, and yes, it's 950 stitches in an I-cord bind off, but you can do it. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like a triple bind off. But he has been, I think he's been really instrumental for keeping me kind of moving forward with things. And I had carpal tunnel surgery on both hands. And so I have a picture of me watching him while I'm recovering. And, it's kind of fun to have him, tell us his stories and his woes. And then also bringing in the crochet aspect, which I learned to crochet when I was 9, but it didn't stick. You know, I wasn't like focused on it into it. My grandmother tried to teach me. It didn't stick. So when I'm watching him and his crochet, I'm like, maybe I need to take up crochet also, but when am I going to do it? I'm not sure. So.
Well, he definitely changed me, I feel like, because prior to meeting Martin, I was a one project girl. So I would concentrate on one project until I finish it. And he somehow like made me, I'm not as relaxed about having 16 whips, and just the idea of him having 16 whips stresses me out.
Stresses you out, of course, yeah.
Right, on his behalf. Like I'm stressed for him. I'm stressed for Mark getting his jumper on time. Like it's all stresses me out. But on the other hand, like I feel like I can work on multiple projects now and not feel like I'm losing control. So he changes me a little bit, like 1 month at a time.
Yes, I agree. I needed a palette cleanser or an immediately finished project during the slip extravaganza. So I would work on some other things that were, going to get me some immediate gratification because that was taking so long. And I remember him having 21 works in progress at one point, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I have 4. I'm good.
They love you, Martin.
Yeah.
Have you watched previous ones?
Yeah, I've been watching pretty much all of your videos. That's how I found out about it. And I think you said on a live to just email you, and I thought, sure, I'll try it.
Well, what did you like about the previous Humans of Westknits?
I love seeing everybody's iterations of the different shawls and kind of their thoughts on the shawl. I just think it's really interesting.
What are your thoughts about this shawl?
I am confused about where it is at the moment, but I'm trusting that that it'll come together tomorrow, maybe.
Fingers crossed.
But I've really enjoyed the technique so far, and I feel like I learned something new every time I do one of these.
How were you dealing with all the scheduling of the clues? Like, are you on time?
I'm caught up. Yeah, I haven't had too much trouble keeping up with this one.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Favorite?
I really liked doing the cables. I think it was partly because of my yarn was really interesting, but I also really liked the first clue. It was a little tedious, the casting on and casting off, but I really, I liked how I could like braid it up a little bit and see how it was going to look. And I just thought it looked so good when it was finished. That was fun. I've never done anything like that before. So I got a whole lot better at cable cast on.
Oh, that's for sure. Like, I feel like I'm a pro now.
Yeah, that came up in another pattern that I'm doing just like this week, and I was like, oh, I can do it, no problem.
You know what I find?
I've always done it way too tight. Yeah,
I find it funny because like I often find like I'm doing some new to me technique, and then the next project comes and they ask for that technique, and I'm like, I just practiced from the previous project, and now I know what you mean, so it's often happens like that.
Yeah. I found that a couple of times already with the
What kind of yarn did you choose?
I picked well, I used Stash, and I used this is all of my main color that I have left, so I'm probably not going to have enough of it, but I have another yarn that's a similar color, and this is it's a little bit woollier than like a sock yarn, but then my contrast color is sock yarn, like a lightly speckled sock yarn, and then my other color is like a Malabrigo sock.
That's so pretty.
Yeah,
I love
I'm really liking that. This is actually my third choice though. As I was knitting the first clue, I kept seeing I thought that this yarn was speckled more with yellow, so I thought that would work better, but as I was knitting it, I kept seeing the green, and I just really wanted to use a green instead. So I went and got that one.
I mean,
new.
did you even look at the kits?
I always look at the kits to kind of get inspiration, and I also like to see if I can find, like, pick a favorite and then see if I can find anybody who's sharing their progress on that one, which I wasn't able to actually this year. I haven't found anybody that was knitting the one that I would have bought if I was buying a kit. But I mostly, for this one, because you needed 2 skeins of each, I didn't have that many choices from stash.
Right.
So I kind of went with.
What did you think about the third clue?
When I first looked at it, I could not believe that that was what we were doing. It's just like, what? Because I turn on the video and go to the end right away to see what we're doing. And I just was like, that's what we're doing? It's not. I really like to kind of predict what's going to come along. And I was way off on this one. So.
Well, I mean, do you have any speculation as to where we're going with this?
Well, I mean, it seems like we have all those live stitches that we have to do something with. So, and like my clue 3 curls so much, I'm really hoping we do something on each side to really open that up. So I'm thinking there's going to be kind of 2 triangles and then a border of some kind, plus the loops of the first clue. I just don't know. My biggest prediction is that clue 4 is going to be a lot of knitting.
I mean,
we have a lot of yarn left.
Yeah, it seems like we have I mean, were you surprised by how light the clue 3 was?
Yes, I was totally surprised. I was glad to get to use my contrast color some, but I was just like, that's it.
Well, I mean, Martin and I just got confirmation from Stephen West that he's going to join us for life at the end of this Mystery Knit.
Oh, cool.
And I'm really curious to ask him if that division between the clues, like how he came to do that, because the first clue took a lot of people out of circulation. They were like, it's just overwhelming, like I can't even, it's so much work. The second clue was also a lot of knitting, and actually both Martin and I fell behind on the second clue because we had like very busy week for different reasons.
Well, yeah, you went to Rhinebeck, didn't you?
And he had like a lot of partying after work, so
right.
he couldn't knit much either. And then the third clue was surprisingly quick. And
yeah, I finished the third clue on Friday, I think, after it was.
Right. I mean, I was like, I had to still finish the second clue, so I started.
Right, yeah.
I was done also, like Saturday evening, I was done with the third clue. So I'm like, I can't even imagine how much knitting we still have left. Like, I'll be surprised if the fourth clue is a light one. I think it's gonna take a lot of us, a lot of time.
I think the only option is maybe if there's not a big knitted border, then it's got to be some kind of fringe or something, which I don't think would make a lot of people too thrilled. But I'm very much of the camp to trust the process. And
what attracts you to Stephen's designs in general?
So I met Stephen at a class in 2017, and it just changed my knitting, because I like to be really creative with knitting, but like with patterns and kind of some of the knitting community, people are very kind of, neutrals and stick to the pattern. And seeing he brought a ton of his work, and seeing his use of color and just like creativity and just kind of like do it and see what happens attitude, just really changed my knitting. So I don't knit his patterns exclusively at all, but I follow him pretty closely, and I like to see, I love how he does, and I noticed this from the very beginning when I first met him. He gets a technique that he kind of explores kind of to the max, and it shows up in lots of patterns and like his different posts. And I just really enjoy following that and seeing how he is creative with knitting, because that's kind of how I want to be with it. I want it to be a fun creative hobby.
Well, when it comes to this specific pattern, have you followed everything to the T, or did you improvise anywhere?
No, I've followed it. I usually add colors, but this year for some reason I haven't. I don't know.
Can I see yours?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's so pretty. I really like
Yeah,
the combination.
I love this. And then I love these embellishments. I've never done anything like that. I don't know if you can see it very well. I can't see very well my screen. And then this part is a little confusing right now because it's so curled. But I really like, that was probably the biggest thing that I've learned is how to do these twisted stitches on this pattern.
Did you enjoy them?
The first repeat of them, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is fiddly. The going back and forth, like I think it was 25 stitches, turning it back and forth. I was like, twists and turns for sure. This is really aptly named. But I got the rhythm of it kind of right after that first. I felt like I had to look at every line the first repeat of it, but I kind of got the rhythm of it after that, and it wasn't bad. Once I had done it a few times, I really liked the cabling without a cable needle on those stitches.
Have you done it before, like cabling without the cable needle?
Not really, and definitely not on this yarn is really slippery, and it was kind of hard. I had to really figure out how to hold that stitch so it wouldn't slip out. And so I definitely haven't done it with yarn like this. I've done it with like Jameson Spindrift or something like that that's really sticky, but not with something like this. So that felt really different.
Well, do you think like next year you're definitely joining, or like you've had enough of excitement and now you need to do what you feel like doing without?
No, I really enjoy these. I'm as long as I can. I mean, I've had some like things come up where I get injured and I can't knit, but as long as I can, I'll do it. Yeah. And I love doing the I bought a kit one time and I didn't actually love the result. And the next year, I think was the year that he started doing a lot more videos leading up to the MKAL. And he was talking all about after he introduced the kits, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. He started talking about using your stash, and I was like, oh, and that was Slip Stravaganza. Right. And I ended up using scraps of a big like a 7 skein fade that I had used like years ago, and then something else that I had, and it was so much fun. And ever since then, I've just been all about it. And that was only 3 years ago, I think, but the last couple, I've been all about using this one. It is scraps, actually. That's why I'm running out of my contrast or my main color so early, but it wasn't quite as scrappy as the last couple.
Right. What excited you about Martin's and mine collaboration?
I've followed both of you for a little while, and so I kind of knew both of you, and I was just like, oh, cool. I know both of them, and they're doing, because I follow a lot of MKAL. I think it's how I found Martin originally. And that's how I find, like, I've found 3 or 4 other podcasters on YouTube this year that are doing updates. I just love to see other people's versions and their comments about it. And I mean, even there's a few people that have given up on it, and I totally understand, but I like hearing their story or their thoughts about it and kind of why they don't enjoy it. So it's just something that I really enjoy following.
Right.
And you guys have been so organized. You put out a schedule, I kind of know what to expect. I think that's a big part of it.
How are you enjoying the Mystery Knit Along so far?
I am enjoying it immensely. I approached it from a little different perspective than normal. My family a while ago decided that we were going to gift experiences for Christmas instead of objects. And so like we'll get fishing licenses for the year or skydiving type of thing. And so that's how I've approached the Mystery Knit Along, is to engage in the experience of not knowing what's going to happen, because in the past I totally would have watched the whole thing through and then decided if it was something that I wanted to do. But one of the things that has drawn me to Stephen and his designs is that he challenges me. And like, for example, I'm looking at shawlography and I'm going, how do you make those shrimp? How do you do that? And so that's what I'm kind of drawn into, to the experience of, okay, I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to have to sit on my hands and wait for the clue to come out, which my husband thinks is absolutely hysterical that I'm not able to jump ahead. Because Stephen is a family experience in my house. We watch the videos together. My son comes in and he wants to know what Stitch and Brioche are doing. And we all had to sit down and watch the music video with shawl after shawl. And I think my son Caleb asked that we watch the is it Carl, the phone call? We watched that probably 5 or 6 times.
Have you ever watched the video where he shows how to wear a shawl? When somebody asks him, how would you wear a shawl? And he demonstrates how to wear it?
I don't think I have.
You should watch that one. It's very entertaining. I'm sure your son would love that.
We will definitely go back and find it. So, this has been a great experience so far. Do I like the shawl? I have absolutely no idea whatsoever. I am very much looking forward to the clue dropping tonight. I have my alarm scheduled for 3 a.m., which is what time it will probably drop in my time zone. And I actually have yarn to do too. So I'm only stitching or knitting one right now as we go along. And then I am committed to, no matter what I think about it, doing the second one. So.
Where are you now with the clues?
Okay, so I have finished section 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm halfway through 5. I've started 6, and I've done 4 out of the 10 optional ornamentation. And I think that I'm trying not to do a spoiler unless, that you want to see what I've done so far, but
I do want to see it.
You do want to see it? Okay. So the first yarns that I picked are Rami Silk, which I think is a Mominoki. Yeah, Mominoki. So main color, contrast color, and accent. So that one I've done this much. The yarn that I fell in love with for the second one is a juniper green with a pale pink base with speckles and a hot pink pop that's called Sassy Pants.
Love it.
So I still have cabling to do here. And I've done the I-cord accent on 4 of the 5 here. And I stopped because my local yarn shop, which is an indie dyer, Tammy with the Chick That Knits, has a Surrey alpaca. And I saw a whole shelf full of Surrey alpaca when I was there last week. So I'm going to take this in tomorrow and see if she has a skein that will go with this ensemble. So this is what I have so far. And then I started the serpentine cabling off the side. And I love the way that serpentine cabling is popping in that hot pink. I don't know what color it's coming across on the screen.
I absolutely love your combination. It's really pretty. And I'm a huge fan of Tammy. You can say hi to her from me because she was on my channels. I interviewed her on my channel.
Well, you can say hi to her because she'll be watching.
Hi, Tammy. Love you.
So I love her shop and her yarn. It's just incredible, especially having access to her as a local source.
Right.
So, but she does have an Etsy shop for those of you that might want to go check it out.
I have the whole collection. Like, I have probably half of her shop on my shelves out there. Like, I've been her huge fan for years and used all her colors. Do you have a favorite clue so far?
Clue 1, the challenge of figuring out the casting on and the casting off, and this being my first MKAL, like you, I really didn't know what to expect. And I kept thinking, is this a lot of knitting for the first clue? Is this less knitting than the first clue? What have I gotten myself into? And my plan isn't necessarily to stay on target time-wise for the whole thing, but I really wanted clue 1 done before I started clue 2. And I wanted to see how it came together. I really did want to see how that braid came together, but I refused to let myself braid before I got all of the floats cast on and cast off done. I called them caterpillars. I don't know what other people call them, but in my world, they were caterpillars.
How would you compare that experience of mystery knit along with the skydiving?
Okay, so with skydiving, in my family, we hadn't done it, and what I found was the experience was you jump out of the plane. So there's like a whole bunch right at the beginning. And then it's just so peaceful. And then you have to land. And this one hasn't been that way. This is more like a roller coaster where you're like, it's twisting and turning. You're up, you're down, you're, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Okay, I can breathe. No, I can't. Yes, no. So it's yeah, I would say it's not really similar at all, other than the anticipation and the buildup right before you get to that point where somebody just boots you out of the plane. So
do you see yourself ever doing it again?
Oh yes. And I think I would do it in a very similar way where I'm approaching it as, okay, this is an experience again. Because I don't think, okay, let me back up a little bit. In that with a theater background, you have to trust the director. Because as an actor or a costumer or a prop designer, you don't have the vision that's there. I think Stephen is an incredible, extraordinary visionary. He is seeing this at the end, the way it's all put together. And so I love what Martin at Knit 365 says, and Stephen we trust, because if you go with what Stephen has indicated you need to do, and if you follow the pattern to the best of your ability, pending purling tension disasters, you're going to come out with an extraordinary result. Whether that's something you necessarily want to keep and wear may or may not be the case, but you've still had a fabulous experience. And perhaps you've learned something along the way and made new friends along the way and had wonderful conversations with people who have seen you knitting and are like, okay, what is that? And how do you make that happen? Of course, I'm also a big proponent of knitting in public. So I enjoy those interactions.
I really wonder if Stephen has the vision before he starts making that show, or if he is as surprised as we are by the final outcome. And Martin and I just confirmed that Stephen is coming live on his channel on Friday, November 4th. So I think that's going to be one of the questions we're going to ask.
You know, I'm intrigued by that question as well. I'm not sure surprise is something that Stephen would actually feel necessarily, but I can sure see him delighted at a light bulb moment, or, you know, seeing a new direction that he hadn't seen before. And I was listening to your interviews for Clue 2, I think it was, and you asked about, does this feel like it's a kind of like a patchwork put together? And I think it seems that way, but I think that, in my personal opinion, I think that there is an Austin Powers ambiance to Stephen's perspective on occasion. I think he might be doing that intentionally. But like, for example, what you were talking about, that one stitch difference in order to get the S cabling to line up here. That is not coincidental. That is a genius mind at work to figure out how that goes together. But I think that genius mind just takes it that one step further to put it into the evil and the maniacal, I'm going to get them with this perspective as well. And I love that he has fun with it. I had to knit this first part. I knit and knit and knit and knit. I knitted to the point where I got muscle burn in my pointer finger because I'm a flicker. And my husband was like, you have to stop. You have to stop, Shannon. And I'm like, no, but I have to finish. I have to finish. Because I didn't want to miss out on whatever Austin Powerish thing Stephen was going to reveal in the next clue. I wanted to be able to do it immediately. Will I be able to do that for clue 4? No, but I didn't expect that for clue 4 I would be able to be prepared for that either. So.
Do you have any idea of where we're going with clue 4?
No, none whatsoever. I think the most viable suggestion that I've heard was Martin saying something about attaching these live stitches somehow on an angle with picking up stitches here on this serpentine ribbon, I guess. I can also see short rows expanding cabling with that concept. But if I can think about it, I think that's probably too predictable for Stephen. So I don't know.
So this is it for clue number 3. I hope you enjoyed meeting all these wonderful knitters from all over the world as much as I did. We still have some things planned for the rest of the Mystery Knit Along. So please stay tuned. And if you enjoyed this program, please consider subscribing. Thank you. Happy knitting.